Welcome back to Big Herb the Nerd today as we look at the FM18 reveal video on dynamics. So let's not hang around, let's get in and see what this is all about. So the first thing we'll see is when you join a club, you'll get your squad dynamics update. This is, this little pyramid they've shown us. We've seen that before. That essentially breaks down the squad hierarchy and the morale into a visual representation. So the things that have plagued us, it looks like, in the past, things like players coming to you with contract requests and transfer requests will now have a bigger impact on the overall morale, and you'll be able to manage those better to hopefully manage the morale better. So we get the monthly updates to dynamics, but we also get this fancy sidebar, the dynamics screen, which is essentially the morale screen. We've got the three areas that we need to look at: match cohesion, dressing room atmosphere, and managerial support. Well, I think a lot of this dynamics is little bits that have been within the system already that are now being pulled out into a specific area. So, match cohesion. This is the tactic familiarity plus, I would say, tactic familiarity 2.0. We're looking at how well the team develops together and plays together. And as they allude to in the video, that if you have this working well and you work on the right mental attributes, you may see that your players sort of help each other's mental attributes gain. So a bit of the sort of tutoring in there as well. So as he alludes to, midfielders may see a vision increase if they're playing alongside other midfielders in a tactic that suits playing long balls. They may see an increase in vision as they learn from each other. So tutoring coming into the match cohesion along with tactic familiarity means you'll have to think a lot more about how to tinker and train with these players to get them the right attributes. That being said, you can't really train mental attributes, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. As long as those two get along and play well together and have the same tactic familiarity, then the younger player will learn from the older player and increase his mental attributes that way. So I imagine the tutoring has just been built into the sort of tactics model as well, which is good to see. But it would be interesting to see how well you can actually manage it and whether you can see the differences of those stat changes and whether you're able to pick them out. But let's move on to dressing room atmosphere. So dressing room atmosphere is all about social groups. We've seen here, you've got these social groups, and depending on whether the core social group or the largest social group are happy, that will give you a good dressing room atmosphere. The idea being you need to try and get those guys into larger social groups and manage them to ensure that they are happy. And as we'll see later in the video, there are ways to manage those social groups to ensure that they are happy overall. And like he says, the happy group will ensure that you have a happy dressing room atmosphere. So the quicker you can integrate new players into those social groups, the more likely you are to have a better dressing room atmosphere and therefore better performances on the pitch. As you can see behind me, there are some criteria, obviously, that help build this dressing room atmosphere. Things like clubs having the same nationality, most players being at the club for a similar length of time, and also their professionalism, so their personality. How they bell into are they all professionals? Are they ambitious? Are they, I can't remember what the other categories are, but as long as you have the core social groups that are around the same level, and I'm imagining that's how the core social groups will be built, around players that are around the same age, around the same nationality, speak the same language, and have the same personality. They will be in the largest social groups, and that will be how those groups are built. So something extra to manage in there, something more to think about when you're scouting players and bringing them in. Nationality is going to be a big thing. Age, have you got a nice mix of ages at the club? Will they fit in with the core social group that you've got there? And definitely the personality. Something that has been kind of overlooked. A lot of people use it when they're scouting because they want certain player types, they want certain personalities, but a lot of players ignore it completely. This will now be more important in the game, as you will want those players, when you're bringing them in, to integrate very quickly to give those performances on the pitch. You want your new players coming in and running with the team after 1 or 2 games, not 5 or 10 games, when your job could be on the line in that much time. So it's a bit of what's there before, but bringing it all together, and hopefully we'll show you a bit more later on how you can manage that dressing room atmosphere further. And lastly, we've got managerial support. This is the standard, right? If you've been in a short period of time, you won't have the support. If you have a good reputation from a previous club, you'll have better support. So this is things that we already have seen when players come in and they may be not sure about you as a manager and more likely to turn against you in the early days of your career. This will also be built up by good performances on the pitch and managing those players' needs, so ensuring that training's going well and they're happy with training. So yeah, this is built on the standard things we've seen now. If you are making promises, that you're keeping promises, and that you are winning performances on the field, because that will keep your manager's support high, and obviously you'll have less chance of a revolt, which is what we see sometimes when you refuse those contracts or refuse those transfer requests. You'll now have a very clear picture of, well, if this guy wants to leave and I don't let him go, how many people are going to turn against me? Maybe it's best just to let him go on this one. So it just gives you that little bit more knowledge to ensure that you make the right decisions about morale, and don't get yourself fired for no reason. But let's move on to see some of the other screens. So in the hierarchy screen, we get the beautiful pyramid that we were teased before in the previous video. This shows you your team leaders, your highly influential players, your influential players, and then everybody else who doesn't really give a toss. So you've got your team leaders up there. They're likely to be your captain and any senior players, so the guys that you expect to be slightly older. And then below them, your highly influential players. That might be where you actually sit on your vice captains, but they're the guys that have the necessary mental stats, or close to having the necessary mental stats, to be team leaders. These are your future captains, so you need to look after these players. You've then got influential players below them. Again, these have some of the stats. These are likely to be younger players who don't have the mental stats built yet, but have the potential to have those mental stats. So as long as they are in the same social group or pulled into the same group as those team leaders and highly influential players, you're hoping that that will build their mental stats. So they will learn from those guys who are the core of your group. Interesting is the sidebar that you'll see, and I'll show you in this screenshot now, that you'll actually get feedback from your assistant manager about the hierarchy. So your transfer policy will be influenced by this sort of stuff. So you can see if you're one of your team leaders is approaching the peak of his career, they should be looking to retain him for years to come. But that also is meaning that if he's at the peak or about to go over the peak of his career, you need to be looking at your highly influential players to be coming in as team leaders. So how do you start thinking about that in a season? Maybe it's a case of changing the vice captaincy and giving one of the younger guys a go when your guy who's in his peak maybe isn't playing every game of the season. So things to think about on top of playing the game is just managing your morale of your players to ensure that you have enough leaders coming through, and that you're building a team that's sustainable. It's going to be quite an interesting one, I think. But I imagine this little sidebar will be quite useful when you're looking to, bring those extra attributes you're looking for on those players. This is where you'll come, I imagine. So from this hierarchy, I think it gives you a quick look as well. You can click on any of the players and it shows you what social group they will sit in and their happiness currently. So someone's fired in that request for a transfer, or they want a new contract. I think you jump into this hierarchy screen quickly, you give them a little click and you see, how much of a problem is it going to be if I kick these guys out? How unhappy are they? I imagine if they're asking for some of that stuff, they're probably not that happy. But are they sitting within the core group? Is this going to rock the boat if we say no? And that's what you're going to be looking at. And I think this will be quite a good quick screen to come back and look at. And as they hint at as well, the team leaders will become your best friends. You'll be able to use these guys and use the player interaction feature to find out what's going on in the dressing room, to get a heads up. Is there anyone causing problems? Is there anything we could be doing to improve that? Especially when you're coming in as a new manager, you're going to need to latch onto these team leaders and get them on side as soon as possible. So using them where possible to find out who the troublemakers are, or fix certain issues. Is there problems with training? Is there problems with tactics? These guys will hopefully be able to give you some insight into turning that team round in the early days of your career. So it will be very, very useful. It's something to look at straight away, first days in a managerial job. And here we have the social group screen. So this will be a very important one. You'll want to try and get as many of your players as quickly as you can into that core social group. And as we touched on before, it will be things around nationality, language, age, and personality or professionalism. Those people with the same stats will end up in the same social groups. And as you can see, the problem will come when you've got a lot of your others in those social groups. I imagine your others are going to be your fringe players a lot of the time. And those fringe players are the ones that usually are the ones that put in contract termination requests or transfer requests. So it'll be key to see that those players that are on the fringe that want to transfer, that you're umming and ahhing about, it might be worth letting them go just to keep the core social group happy. So this is something to definitely watch out for. It could be a double-edged sword, right? So you want everyone to get into that core social group, or at least into as large a social group as possible, because that'll help morale. But also, if they've got a problem, it's going to hold it against you. So you need to make sure you have enough players on side to make sure you don't rock the boat. You don't want to be giving in to all these players' requests, and that's going to be a worry for me in FM18. Does it become very difficult to say no to players because of the social status in the club? I imagine the higher reputation you have, the more like manager reputation you have, the easier it is to say no to these guys. But early on, you're probably going to be at the beck and call of these guys, which is why it's so key to get those team leaders and to get those highly influential players on side as quick as possible. And here we have probably the most detailed and most useful page here, the happiness screen. Here you break down, you've got the hierarchy breakdown of team leaders, highly influential players and influential players, but you've got their morale. So you've got their morale broken down into the areas that affect it. This is golden. When you've got that player who's just not playing well, or just has poor morale, even though your team is winning, and at the moment you're kind of floundering to find out what's going on. Unless he's got a specific unhappy little request on there, you're kind of stuck. Here you can come in and see everything. Is it training? Is it his treatment? Is it the club, management, playing time? And that gives him an overall happiness and therefore morale. This is going to be golden. You'll be able to see if actually, you know, that guy, before they come to you asking for more playing time, that as soon as they drop from satisfied down, which is from superb down to satisfied, you can drop him in a couple of games, couple of cup games, and maybe stave off that request coming through to you and then a possible further revolt from a larger social group. And training as well. You can go in and see the training. I wonder what the feedback is on training, whether it is just superb, whether they actually give you that specific why they're unhappy. But this bit, once we work out how to work with this happiness, this will be a golden screen. This is the most useful screen, I think, in the dynamics section, because it gives you everything you need to keep those players happy, and that's what you need. Morale high. It looks like morale is going to be have even more of an impact on the actual in-game results than ever before. So this is brilliant. And as you say there, morale's going to be the big one to manage, isn't it? So let's look forward to FM18. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash the like button. Pop it down in the comments your thoughts on dynamics, and let's get a little chat going on. And you know, if you're looking forward to more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. We got some more FM18 content coming out, teams to manage videos, as well as more reaction videos, and obviously we'll have FM18 saves as soon as the beta is released. So subscribe now to get in on that action. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you another time. Bye bye.